Hi everyone. You don't know me, right? My name is Michelle Van. I am an autistic blogger known for my blog series called The World of Autism. My goal mission with my blog series is about with experiences from like my own perspective as an individual on the autism spectrum and from experiences from everybody, from others that are autistic to parents, professionals, educators, you name it. And I know it's been a little bit of a while since I've done guest interview recordings, but that is because I'm finally in my brand new house here in Florida with my family, and we are really enjoying our new home. So I'm glad to be back to doing more guest interviews. My next guest on here is Maribeth Edmunds. How are you doing today, Maribeth?
Hi, Michelle. I'm great. How are you?
Good, doing well, doing well. So let's get right into it to have the audience get to know you a bit.
Well, sure. So I'm Maribeth Edmunds. I'm a parent of a son, an adult son with autism, and I'm also a principal of an elementary school in New Jersey. And I know Michelle through the New Jersey Autism Think Tank, where both of us were contributing members. And so I'm happy to be here today to talk with Michelle about some of my experiences as a parent and a supporter of the autism community in New Jersey.
That's awesome. That is a nice little introduction about yourself. I want to get right into about what you were saying about with being a parent who's raised a young adult that's on the spectrum. Can you tell to everybody like what you've learned over the years of raising your son?
Well, my son was born in 1983, and he started to have the features of autism around 18 months, as is typical with early onset. And at that time in the 80s, not many people knew much about autism at all. And so raising him as a child back then was quite challenging, to say it mildly. And my husband and I learned a lot over the years about behaviorism and discrete trials, and the way typically children with autism were taught in schools. And he actually went to a private school, eventually Eden Autism, which is in Princeton, New Jersey, because at that time school districts really didn't have their own programs, which now, of course, they do. So what I learned, Michelle, in a nutshell, is that parents have to be on top of it all the time. There's generally some kind of a pushback when trying to get services, not only for the child when the child is 3 years old or 5 years old, or transitioning from the public school district into adulthood, but the challenges are different, but the fight usually is the same. And what happens in New Jersey, at least, and I'm not sure about Florida, is that the school districts have to take the children and educate the children from ages 3 to 21. That's entitlement, right? That has to happen. Once the child becomes an adult at 21, services are no longer guaranteed. So parents need to work very hard to find and secure services for adults with autism, especially those adults who are very needy. So at this point now, my son is 38, and he's living in a supervised apartment. But we still have to monitor everything that happens for him and make sure that he's taken care of in the manner in which we want to have him taken care of, but also to have the finances behind him so that he can get the support as a gainfully employed, self-sufficient adult as much as he can be. So I think, as I say, I learned a lot.
That is awesome. And like what you were saying too about with trying to provide like so that way he can be self-sufficient. I know that's what, for a lot of parents, that's what they want for their child. And I know for me personally, my parents really helps me a lot with that in terms of like pushing to get to be self-sufficient in my own ways. And like that's what I'm thankful about this year, is about with that, the fact that I have more than one job here. I'm like, not only I work in the schools, which by the way, when you were saying about with the in terms of like these special education services, it is the same here in Florida. It is from age 3 to 21. Once you're 21, you're at services.
Mhm.
You know, and that's where the bottom line is, that what would happen is that after you're 21, like what, you know, so that was a really good point you mentioned. And as well about with your son, thank you for sharing about with your child, because I think a lot of parents would be, it would give a lot of hope for parents that are, especially with today, like I feel like the resources nowadays, there's a lot more than there was at the time. Even when, for me, when I was little, it wasn't as much resources for my parents in terms of like getting services and stuff. Like it was very limited. So I think a lot has changed today.
And, Michelle, you used a specific word, hope. Parents have a lot more hope today, I think, than when I was first raising my son, because there are more resources. But as you say, once the individual with autism turns 21, those resources really do dry up. So parents can't be complacent, I guess, if their child needs to have continued resources. They really have to be out there applying and trying to fight for the limited resources that are available. So good point. And you're fortunate that your parents support you, which is wonderful.
Thank you. Thank you. And I want to transition a bit to where, like, now you were saying, like, when you were saying in your little intro about with being a principal, do you feel like your experiences with raising your son with autism, like, do you feel as a principal, do you feel like it's been helping you in like the school perspective when it comes to its students?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely, Michelle. When a child is diagnosed, the first diagnosis, whenever that happens, and whatever the diagnosis is, right? It could be ADHD, it could be autism spectrum, it could be anxiety disorders. These hit young parents very hard. It's very hard to absorb, number one, what this diagnosis means, and number two, the piece that we can help children get better, but the diagnosis doesn't go away. I think that's one of the misconceptions that people still ask me: is my child going to grow out of this? I mean, I had a parent on Friday of last week came in because the child has ADHD, and this is my child going to grow out of this? And it's like, no, children with autism grow up to be adults with autism. Children with ADD grow up to be adults with ADHD or ADD. And so learning how to manage that and live with that and make improvements is the journey. So I think, to answer your question as best I can, has that helped me? Absolutely. I understand firsthand how that hits parents to begin with, and how they grapple with this news about the child, but also to help them understand that they're on a journey. It's going to be, it's not going to go away. It's not going to be over in a month. Like you can say, well, you put, how about next report card? No, this is going to be something that we'll be addressing and working with the children and with the families, because this is all about the family. The family is not separate from the child with a diagnosis. That's for sure. That's for
Yeah,
sure.
absolutely. That And it truly takes a community. It's not just like one person, it takes a whole community to go through the journey and stuff and making like progress in a person's life. Yes. And and I'll tell you this, I've been asked that question like when with my parents and stuff when I was little. Like that was actually something my parents did ask a little bit, but at the same time, that was because they were still understanding about with autism. So, but for a lot of people, like that was something like, especially with doing keynote speeches a little bit, I've been asked that question about with their own kids, and I'm like, it doesn't go away. It's not. It's only a part of who they are. It doesn't fully describe them. It's just a piece of them that's going to be a part of their life, and it's a matter of helping them adapt in the world. And that's what we have to try to do is, and especially like from your perspective as a parent and as a principal in the schools, like it takes a matter of helping students with autism and disabilities to help them adapt into our world.
And you're leading me to another thought, Michelle, in that what I think we have to help parents really and the community, because you said it takes a community. I think we have to help the community accept and embrace differences. And I think as I've, as I say, my son's 38 years old. So I've been living in the world of autism for 38 years. He was diagnosed at age 4, so I knew about it 34 years, but I was still living it before that. And what I think, and I want to say this in the best of all possible ways, I think what schools and parents and therapists try to do is make the child with autism more like typical children. And try to, in other words, the difference that you bring to the table or the difference that my son brings to the table should be embraced and celebrated, as well as trying to help the individual with autism adapt. And I'm starting to understand that a little bit differently now, I think, than I did 38 years ago.
That's exactly what I was trying to say like that. It was that that's what it takes. It has to take people trying to like embrace the child or embrace the individual, adult child, and just to like let them be themselves in our world. It's just supporting and guiding. That's what I was trying to mean with adapt, like what you were saying. So that is a really important message right there for schools and for the community to know that like that's what we have to continue doing today. So that way we have less issues that we've had in the past, like issues that have gone on, such as with like in school, like with bullying that's occurred, and even like just outside, like when for adults, like to get employment, like all these things that we just need to come together as a community.
No, you're absolutely right. And I'm hoping, with the pandemic, my son was furloughed, and we're hoping that maybe back in January, he'll be able to go back to work. But I don't want him in a back room somewhere. And I understand they offered him some kind of a job where he would be putting brushes in a box for shipping, paint brushes.
Right.
And that's nice work, but he would be sitting in a room alone with just one other person putting the brushes in the box and getting it ready to ship. And I said, no, I don't want him hidden away somewhere. I mean, I want him to work, obviously, but I don't want him hidden away somewhere where he's not going to interact with the general community. And that's vitally important to me. And I think that's important for the community to learn how to interact with individuals on the spectrum. Absolutely. So I said no to that.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. So now I want to transition to a bit more of like your other work that you do for the autism community, such as with Eden Autism.
Mhm.
Oh, you've shared that with me before, but I would like for you to share it with the audience because I think it'd be a good resource to know about.
Good. So as a parent of an individual who's been at Eden for over 25 years, I've been supporting the work of Eden, whose mission is to improve the lives of people with autism, one individual at a time, one family at a time, and one community at a time. And for the last 6 years, I've served on their board of trustees. So I kind of had that role for a long while. But I'm also chair of the Aging and Medical Needs Committee. And we've been developing programs and protocols for our adults who are aging. We have our oldest adult is around 75. And he might be a little bit older too, but we have a group of participants now at Eden who are in their 50s, 60s, and 70s. And what's happening, Michelle, is, as people age, they need hip replacement, they develop diabetes, all the things that the general population is subjected to happens to our aging participants. So the question is, how do we help hospitals? How do we help nursing homes? How do we help rehab centers and other professionals learn how to service our adults? And so that work has been, we've been underway for about 2 years with that. And we've been searching around the country to find other programs that we could model ours after, and there really aren't any. So this is pioneering work for our organization. And I hope within the next 6 months that our program is done and that we can share it and implement it. And then the other thing I do, Michelle, which is a lot of fun for me, I'm chair of the gala. I like to do the fundraising. I like to have a good night out with a fancy dress on. And we try to raise funds so we can continue to provide programs above and beyond for our children and our adults. So and keep Eden in operation long beyond my lifetime, beyond my son's lifetime, so that other individuals can be served by our organization. So that's, and then we have the New Jersey Autism Think Tank, which we have to bring back together after the pandemic. I'm hopeful.
Yes. Yeah.
I'm hopeful that we can get that up and running. Yeah.
Absolutely. I know it's been a while about that.
Yeah, I think our last meeting was February before the pandemic hit, and then unfortunately it's been disrupted. But I think we'll still be able to do something in the future.
Yeah, that would be fantastic to have everyone back for that. I know we were doing so much work for that, and I know you've been doing a lot of great work with Eden Autism.
Mhm.
Know who is in New Jersey to make sure that you check out Eden Autism if you want to be able to get support and services for if you're aging out, because it's very rare to find nowadays still that of services and centers that are to support individuals who are beyond 21 and even in their 50s and 60s. So it's great to hear about that. And I hope that more places, more states even, just to have to come up with that. So I hope that, Maribeth, I hope that it will spread into other states too.
I think at some point people are going to acknowledge, and this is what I said earlier, every child that you meet with autism is going to grow up to be an adult with autism. It doesn't go away. So how does our community, how does our society embrace these differences and take advantage of the skills, talents, and abilities. You have so many skills and talents, and you're developing them all on your own, and you know, sharing all the good work that you're doing and helping to raise consciousness. But I'm hopeful that we'll be able to lead the way and create more opportunities, because that's what we want, opportunities. We just don't want a handout, so to speak. We really want to embrace, be a part.
Yeah.
Be part of society.
Exactly. And I think that's a great way to end it here, that it's definitely important about with acceptance. Like that's the key thing, is acceptance. And then just about with advocacy, it takes those two to make a difference. It really does. It really does. That was great. It was a great message, and it was also great having you on.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I'm so thrilled to still be connected to you. And I hope we manage to continue our connection, even though you're in Florida. I'm still here in New
Absolutely.
Jersey.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you so much, Maribeth.
And thank you, Michelle.
you.